Okay, so this is a video recap of Pole Expo 2015 from my perspective. I'm finally back in Detroit after a short shift of work, being a little bit late. Okay, 2.5 days late. Um, anyway, so last year I decided to drive from Detroit to Las Vegas for Pole Expo 2014, and I took it upon myself to try and visit all of the studios along the way and taking two different routes. So that I could cover more pole studios and see more of the country and that kind of thing. This year, learning from last year, I decided to go much less epic and simply drive to Pole Expo and drive back from Pole Expo. I did take two slightly different routes, and this time it was due to a combination of weather and perceived fatigue after so many long hours of driving. So I left Detroit on the 7th, the morning of the 7th, Monday, and I got as far as upper left Indiana, so very, very close to the Chicago area, and I swung by a studio there called Studio Venus that on my previous trip I hadn't been able to even take the time to get off the highway and find. It was just so close to the end of my trip on the way back, and I was so pressed for time. So I took the time to find it this time, and I found it. Unfortunately, it wasn't open, which a lot of times I stop at pole studios. They're not open at the time. It's not their fault. And even if they were, I might not be the right kind of person to be allowed in there. I'm okay with that. To each their own. In this case, it wasn't open. I took some pictures with the Xerxes in front of it, and a nearby friend said, hey, come on over. And thankfully, I was able to help fix her Expo. Had that little rare thing where underneath the sheath of the 2010 to 2013 models, those 1 to 2 screws get loose, and they are much smaller than the tools that are included. It turns out to be a 3mm most of the time. So I tightened those down while wiggling the pole, was able to fix it, spotted her in a few moves, helped her with some pole pictures, and for the pole challenges, yeah. And then on my way towards TGR Fitness in Des Moines, Iowa. Now there's 3 locations. There's Ankeny, there's Ames. I'm not familiar with that one really. And then there's the new one in actual Des Moines. And I had recently seen that Amber Cahill had posted about that. So I wanted to visit that one. It was right off the highway. So I'm glad I did. My timing was perfect on that one. There were people there. There were some people setting up for the pole room that will be opening in January, I believe. And they showed off the we'll call it the Ninja Playground, because I mean they got the 14-foot 5-inch wall from Ninja Warrior. They've got your typical CrossFit bar looking thing with some varying elevations of monkey bars. I think that's what they're called. They had Cordelies, really cool kind. They had a fast rope. They had at least 1 lira, 2 liras, 3 liras. There were at least 3 silks, and there was a lot of stuff to play with there. It was really cool. And I was also very fortunate that Tristabel Aquila, I'm sorry on the last names here, Tristabel anyway, was available to help me play around on some stuff and, you know, get pictures and have fun for about 20 minutes before I got back out on the road again. No, I did not succeed on the 14-foot 5-inch wall. It was fun to try, but it was kind of scary too. And let's see, I got back out to my car in the parking lot, and I noticed that my front right corner lens was falling out like you would see like a cartoon eyeball falling out of a head. And it kind of made sense to me because I had just replaced one of the bulbs in there, and it was broken like 8 years ago, and I hadn't moved it since then. So by moving it to put the bulb in, moving it back in, it just didn't want to stay in. It's because somebody had backed into my car. It's whatever. So thankfully they gave me some goop, and I taped some stuff up, and it was fine for most of the rest of the trip. Went along my way from TGR Fitness in Des Moines. I drove through Omaha, Nebraska, and I got past Lincoln, Nebraska. I can't remember the name of the town in Nebraska that I ended up staying the night. The rain was just too cumbersome. So instead of trying to make it all the way to Colorado Springs, which was the original plan, well, not the original plan, but the most recent plan before I left Detroit, I made the safe decision to just get a hotel. Very, very inexpensive one. I think like $35. Got a hotel, got a lot of sleep. Set out to Colorado Springs in the morning. Got to stop by the semi-trailer in Atlanta, Nebraska, that has a silhouette, a pink silhouette of a pole dancer on it that I happened upon on my way back from Pole Expo last year, and it happens to be in the same spot. Well, several feet away from its spot from last year. Took some pictures again. Went through the back roads of Nebraska and Kansas to get to Colorado, and what they don't warn you is make sure that you fill up on fuel. You can be driving for 40 miles and not see a gas station, and then you'll see one and it says 24-hour fuel, but it doesn't work and there's nobody there. And it was very scary. I almost ran out of fuel, and I ran out of fuel coming into a gas station, and then I fueled up. I got to Colorado Springs without any further incident, and beautiful weather always in Colorado Springs. I'm so in love with that place. I got there and I visited Pole Revolution, which is Pastor Diane Martin's pole studio, and I got to see it after the renovations. I didn't get to see it last time. I saw only the outside of it. And there were two little love bugs outside, or not love bugs, love vans. The old Volkswagen buses from like 1963 to 1978, and they were parked next to each other, so I got a picture of that. So I went upstairs and met her students. Class was about to start, and everybody was very welcoming. It was so warm of a welcome. It's been a while since I've been able to either participate in and or just sit through a class, and it was a level 1 class, I think, but such really good students. They took direction well. She taught well. Everybody had fun. The one girl had just mentioned that she just bought an Expo and she hadn't even set it up yet. It turns out she hadn't even unwrapped it yet. She asked if I would come over and help her, and yeah, actually I love setting up Expos because I'm kind of religious about doing it one way, doing it right, showing them how to do it, and for hands-on experience, here's how to do it, don't do it this way. So it was wonderful to be able to show somebody for the first time in their own Expo how to do it. That was fun. Set it up. She was ecstatic. Took some pictures of her being ecstatic on her Expo. Sent it to to Diane, and went and got some pizza. Went back to Diane's Fun Finder camper where I stayed the night. It's such a cool camper. If ever you're in the market for a camper, a tow behind camper, Fun Finder. It's so small, even Xerxes could probably tow it, but it's so spacious on the inside. Let's see. The next morning, I woke up. I think I just, said goodbye to Diane, headed out towards Aspen. The direct route from Colorado Springs to Aspen takes you through some of the most beautiful mountain roads. I did it last year. It was one of the priorities of this trip. One of the main reasons why I was driving, one of the main reasons I was glad I was driving Xerxes. Not that it wouldn't still be beautiful in any other car. And I didn't recognize some of the scenery. And at some point I thought, oh man, did I take a different route this time? Am I going to miss out on that scenery? And then some of it just kept popping up. And then I saw that O'Reilly's in that small town just before heading into the mountains. I'm like, yep, I'm on the right path. So I set up this phone to shoot full HD. So that's one step above 1080p while I was driving. And, suction cup mount so I could still drive. Beautiful roads. The only incident is at one point I hit a really small boulder on the inside or the outside of the inside lane, whatever. The front right of my car, the wheel got hit and bent, and the beauty ring came off, and I parked about a kilometer down the road, walked back up and found it, and took a picture of the boulder, kicked it, hurt my foot. It was funny. Tried to bend my wheel back into place. It's still not perfect. It's been wobbly ever since, but I've been paying attention to it. I knew I would make it back. At that point, I didn't know if I would make it to Vegas, but I still had the full-size spare in the trunk. Met some people from North Carolina. I happened to have the Wii plate with me in my hands as I was on this lookout pass, Independence Pass, I think it was, somewhere around there. And so they got a picture with the Wii plate from North Carolina, and it turns out we were from not too far from each other in the neighborhood in Charlotte where I used to live. Got back on the road, hit the boulder, okay. Beautiful mountain scenery, lovely. Oh, so Independence Pass, there's this little town, and the gas station is called Pass Gas. I was laughing so hard I didn't even see the cop, but he didn't care. He didn't pull me over. It was whatever. And there's a whole bunch of, we'll call them convenience stations with refueling ability, called Come and Go, spelled KUM ampersand go. And that seems way too implicative and naughty. Anyway, so heading through the mountains of Colorado, everything's fine, refueling, great, okay. Now heading through the mountains of Utah, and on the highway, it's not as much mountain passes as much as it is highway with, ravines that you're driving through, or man-made valleys that you're driving through. But the scenery is just breathtaking. If ever you need to go to Vegas, just, I don't even care where you're starting from, fly to Colorado Springs, rent a fun little car, and make this drive at least once. It's amazing. And so in Utah, before we hit the part where it specifically says last gas for like 150 miles, there was this Honda Del Sol alongside of the highway, which outside of America you would know it as the Honda CRX third generation, so 1992 to 1997. And in front of it was a nondescript SUV, I don't remember. But the point is, there was a young female driving the Del Sol, and her parents and her sister were in the SUV, and the Del Sol got a flat tire in the front. I pulled over. I saw that he was putting the donut on the front. Do not put donuts on the front. If you have a full-size spare, that's okay. But if you have a donut as your spare tire, that really small one, the one that specifically says your speed limit is now 55 and you are only allowed to drive 50 miles, you simply must get, yeah. If ever you have that one, put it on the rear, and take the perfectly good rear and put it on the front. The donuts always go in the rear, because the fronts do all of the turning, most of the stopping, and in many cars, a lot of the going. So don't put a donut on the front, ever, no matter what the vehicle is. So I helped him do that. I got the jack out of the car, and the other things. It made it a lot quicker, and he was already winded from doing the work that he did, and he welcomed my advice on doing it differently, and I welcomed my services, because I know how it feels to like just finish doing something and someone's like, oh, well, you did that wrong, you got to start over. So I'm like, okay, here, let me help you. So that was fun, and they were super cool. And so then I got back on the road, and it was scenic but quite boring, up until literally Las Vegas. Yeah, so 70 from Aspen, 70 west to Utah, I-15 south, all the way through that little corner of Arizona that, unless you're paying attention, you don't even know that you're in Arizona. And then right when you cross the border from Arizona to Nevada, there's a small town that I can't remember the name of right now, but you can see like casinos and lights and stuff, and you're like, wow, I'm there already. No, you're not. No, that's a tiny version of whatever you think you're going to. That's not Las Vegas, but it does look like a really cool place. Even during the day when I was heading back and I got to see it without all the lights off or whatever, it still looked like a really cool place. I wish I could remember the name, but I can't. I just remember there's a Casablanca casino there. So this is Tuesday. No, Tuesday I went to Colorado. So this is Wednesday. I'm arriving in Las Vegas Wednesday night, local time 9 p.m. I think, just in time for Trixie Lovett to pick up David C. Owen from the airport and me meet them at this cantina just a mile or so away from where Trixie lives. And Trixie graciously let us use her house while we were there. David stayed the first 2 nights. He's such a great conversationalist, sober or drunk. If ever you have the opportunity to talk to David, even if he's not yet drunk, just start conversation, and as long as neither of you are driving, just go ahead and get him drunk. He is splendid, so splendid, very deep, very deep. I also partook in alcohol. Trixie makes such a mean screwdriver, I would call it like an impact wrench. But so I got tipsy very fast, and no negative side effects from that, but I slept like a baby after 3 days of using my right leg as cruise control. And you may have seen me around Pole Expo with my right leg being rubbish. Oh my God, that's why. That right there is why. It's because this car has no luxuries or anything like that. A quick recap of the car: 1990 Honda CRX, 25 years old, 280,000 miles. It did not originally come with the following: power windows, power locks, power steering, ABS, what else? Radio. It did come with air conditioning, but some of them didn't, and I removed mine because it wasn't working anyway, and now I get better fuel efficiency without it. Other things, yeah. Anyway, the point is, a very uncomfortable ride for long distances, especially by yourself. So now that I was in Vegas, you know what? No, I'm going to make that another video. So that was the On the Way to Pole Expo 2015 video right there. Let's see, before I send this one. So in that case, I want to thank Kate Marie for letting me see her really cool house and letting me fix her X-Pole. I want to thank Tristabella Keela. I hope I'm saying that name right. I really do. And Nina of TGR Fitness Des Moines for giving me a tour. I want to thank Diane Martin for letting me use the Fun Finder again and showing me around her pole studio. That was so much fun. And I want to thank Trixie Lovett and David C. Owen for a great conversation and letting me use Trixie's house. All right, cut.